In a calm, well-lit classroom, a dozen students are quietly focused on their morning assignments. Yet in the middle of this peaceful environment, one student sits completely rigid, refusing to lift a pencil. The teacher approaches and places a worksheet on the desk. Without hesitation, the student aggressively shoves the paper away. Most adults observing this interaction will quickly assign a label to what they just saw. They call it a power struggle. They see intentional disrespect. Categorizing the child as defiant immediately stops us from examining the mechanics of the behavior. The label blocks us from seeing the actual psychological process happening at that desk. To understand the refusal, we have to look outside the school. We have to look at the arguments in another room, or the sight of a suitcase disappearing down a dimly lit hallway. Children living in unstable environments absorb a harsh lesson very early on. The rules shift without warning, and promises vanish, and personal safety is always temporary. When the foundation of a child's daily life shakes dangerously, the child forces a rigid block of control into the center to stabilize it. Arguing over a worksheet deploys that control, building a shield against the heavy unpredictability of their environment. What registers to the teacher as a deliberate provocation is actually a deeply ingrained reflex designed to keep the child safe. These behavioral reflexes do not expire when a person turns 18. They grow up alongside the individual. Fast forward 20 years into a standard corporate office. A supervisor sits across from an adult employee, offering routine, mild feedback on a recent project. Instantly, the employee crosses their arms and leans back in the chair, physically recreating the exact defensive posture of the child at the desk. They are not trying to sabotage the meeting. The feedback has triggered a familiar, deeply rooted sense of vulnerability, prompting them to seize control of the conversation to reestablish their safety. A chronic pattern of resisting workplace authority often traces directly back to a child's early, unaddressed conditioning against unpredictability. This reflex also follows the adult out of the office and into their home. A romantic partner asks a simple question about weekend plans, and the adult immediately shuts the conversation down, emotionally closing off. In intimate spaces, letting someone else steer feels entirely too risky. Vulnerability reads to their nervous system as an active threat. Now place that same individual into a collaborative team brainstorming session with their peers. Before a colleague even finishes pitching a new concept, this person instinctively dismisses the idea, listing the reasons it will fail before actually considering its merits. Whether shutting out a partner at the dinner table or blocking a coworker in a meeting, this constant opposition is the lingering echo of a child still maintaining a protective wall. Knowing this hidden architecture, we can return to that classroom refusal and look at it with completely different eyes. Instead of standing over the desk to issue a strict demand for compliance, the teacher quietly pulls up a chair and sits at eye level with the student. This shift in perspective defines the trauma-informed educator. They set aside the question, "Why is this child being difficult?" and instead ask, "What does this child need to feel safe?" Given a moment of calm presence without a power struggle, the student's grip loosens, their arms uncross, and they slowly pull the paper closer to begin the work. Once the adult proves the environment is secure, the child's psychological requirement to command the situation simply evaporates. By the time the afternoon bell rings and the students are zipping up their backpacks to leave, the once defiant student pauses by the door to exchange a quiet, subtle nod of trust with the teacher. Defiance serves as makeshift armor against a world that proved itself dangerous too early on. The act of rebellion is entirely secondary to the need for protection. Recognizing the fear behind the refusal allows an educator to look past the immediate disruption. In this otherwise harden into lifelong dysfunction, understanding the echo behind the behavior is how we protect human potential.